Hey, mambo, mambo Italiano. Oh. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly. Apologies for the dancing. I promise all will be explained later. You see, this week we're in Israel. It is a really high-tech place, although admittedly, it's not really the home of the mambo. This week we'll get hands-on with some kit and we'll meet the people who make Israel's technology among the best in the world. From medicine to security, from education to transportation. And yes, there will be a flying robot ambulance. And we also have the very best of the web in Webscape. Israel's come a long way since the oranges. Its main export used to be shipped around the world from the port at the ancient city of Jaffa. But since then, it's seen many innovations, including, would you believe, the very first USB memory stick. Jerusalem-based Mobileye makes the technology inside some of the self-driving cars that we've already seen on Click. Right now, take my hands off the wheel. Okay, right now. Right now. Well, I had to give it a go myself, didn't I? Mobileye is now working on a system which will use just one camera and will be able to identify and respond to road signs and traffic lights, as well as other traffic and pedestrians. This is the first time that we've seen an autonomous car which can handle itself at a junction. Israel is packed with startups and incubators. In fact, it calls itself the Startup Nation.
It has a higher concentration of research and development centers and startups per capita than any other place on earth. It has more startups on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange than Europe and India combined.
One of the reasons it is so high-tech is the fact that all Israelis have to do military service, and plenty of innovation comes from the military.
Once the sole possession of special forces, nowadays it's all within our reach.
One company that takes military tech and translates it into commercial applications is Opgal. It's just launched ThermaApp. This is a thermal imaging device, and it's the first one in the world that turns an Android smartphone into a thermal imaging camera. Hi there. And it's useful for anyone who wants to see in the dark, or more interestingly, anyone who needs to know about the temperature of their surroundings. Look at my handprint on the wall. Guilty as charged. So for example, a faulty electrical circuit would appear too warm, a leak in your ceiling will appear at an unusual temperature, and you could even use this to diagnose inflammation or even tumours because they appear warmer than normal. Now on to something else with military connections. A few years ago we came to Israel to see a flying car. Yes, a flying car. Well, Jen Copestake has been to see the latest innovation from tactical robotics.
Moving casualties from remote battlefields is an extremely dangerous job for a helicopter pilot. The landing takes skill and the mission can come under enemy fire. Tactical Robotics hopes to make the job easier with this, the Air Mule, a prototype ambulance drone. On our visit, these drones are firmly on the ground, but the Air Mule has flown over 350 test flights. Over the last 12 years of development, millions of dollars have been invested into getting the Air Mule off the ground. The project is being partially funded by Israel's Ministry of Defense. What makes this one-ton vehicle unique is its internal rotors, 2 rotors taking the place of a helicopter's large external one. It's controlled by 200 directional air flaps. Its top airspeed is around 120 knots, which is about 140 miles per hour, and it can reach an altitude of 12,000 feet. The first mission of the Air Mule is to pick up injured personnel from the battlefield. One cargo bay can fit somebody who's 2 meters 10 and weighs up to 250 kilos, but it still looks a bit of a tight squeeze. Using both bays, the Air Mule can also be used for cargo transportation. 500 kilos can be carried to bring supplies to remote combat zones. The Department of Homeland Security in America is looking at the Air Mule as a way to help secure an urban metropolitan area after a dirty bomb. It could negotiate narrow or blocked streets and carry a decontaminating material.
Imagine this aircraft with 2 robotic arms, piloted by a remote pilot through cameras, and actually getting into the door of a Fukushima or a Chernobyl kind of scenario where nobody would like to go in, and not just taking pictures of what's happening, but actually bringing hundreds of liters of water or fixing a leak or doing some work for hours.
A second prototype is being built and will be flown later this year. If necessary funding is secured, the Air Mule could be in the skies in 5 years.
Jen Copestake, and how cool was that flying ambulance? My word. Now to something much smaller, but just as important. The major cause of cancer death amongst women in low-income countries is cervical cancer. The thing is, if it's caught early enough, it is easy to detect and it costs very little to treat. But of course, the medical kit and the expertise is not that easy to come by. Well, perhaps until now. Meet Mobile OCT. The OCT stands for Optical Coherence Tomography, and this is a $400 handheld device being developed here in Tel Aviv. It analyses potential tumours. The important thing to notice is the part which takes the pictures of the skin is just a normal smartphone. Add a big lens, a handle and a couple of lights, and you've got something that images suspect areas, plus the blood supply to that area, something that's detected by adding the green light.
Cervical cancer is the #1 cause of cancer death for women in low-resource settings, but it's the easiest cancer to treat if you catch it in the first 5 years. Community health workers can pick it up and start imaging right away. Because the device is built on a phone, you send the images up and down to the cloud, which enables them to receive peer mentorship from their peers, as well as expert mentorship from gynecologists and oncologists worldwide, so that no matter where you are, no matter what your training, you can screen for cancer.
Now, the case is 3D printed. That means you don't have to ship them in. You just print one wherever you need it.
Our mission is to enable anyone who has access to a mobile phone the ability to save their lives and the lives of the people they love. And the best way to do that is to make the hardware open source. So until now, we've printed everything using 3D printers. And what we want to do is to enable any person anywhere in the world to be able to create their own devices, and in doing so, screen those people that they'd like to save their lives.
OK, we'll return to Israel in a couple of minutes. First, a look at the big stories that have been hitting the tech wires this week.
Google's joining the auto market, showing off a prototype without a steering wheel, gear stick or pedals. Controlled via a smartphone and a single stop-go button, the electric car uses a combination of cameras, laser and radar sensors to navigate, and it will initially be limited to a top speed of 25 miles per hour to help ensure safety. The first batch of 200 should hit the tarmac within the year. A prolific hacker who faced more than 26 years in prison has been handed a year's supervision sentence after swapping sides and helping the FBI catch some of those he once teamed up with. Hector Xavier Monsegur, known by his online pseudonym Sabu, was one of the core members of hacking group Lulzsec. The group launched a spate of high-profile online attacks in 2011. Korean tech giant LG has entered the smartwatch fray. Its G Watch runs a version of Google's Android operating system with some of the functionality of a smartphone. Its touchscreen will be able to deliver things like weather forecasts, text or email alerts. LG's also announced its flagship G3 smartphone, boasting some of the best specs on the market, including a quad-core processor, 3GB of RAM and a 5.5-inch high-res screen. Valve's own version of the Steam Machine has been delayed until 2015. The living room PC in a box concept will eventually see Valve partnering with a host of PC manufacturers to roll out gaming-focused computers. The unusual touch-sensitive controller is causing the problems, although it's not clear whether other outfits will also be delayed with their versions of the long-awaited Steam Machine platform.
Did you know that you can be identified simply from the way you walk? It's one aspect of something called biometrics, which are the things about you which are unique. to you. Fingerprints, iris patterns and so on. And it turns out that Israel is making great strides in biometrics, if you pardon the pun. David Reed has been finding out why here you could be the key.
Around 5 years ago, something big happened. For the first time in history, the number of us living in cities exceeded those who don't. 3.5 billion of us are squeezing through the same doors. Our security systems have to cope with letting people in, keeping intruders out, while avoiding bottlenecks. One way is biometrics. FS21 in Tel Aviv has developed this digital doorman. It matches up faces with body sizes, greeting those it recognises with a polite shalom, but locking out those it doesn't know.
Actually, the identification of the system is on the visual side, not taking only the faces, but taking the whole body. As the body is part of the human, we're actually looking at the body and looking at the body size is the same body size that the same face had yesterday. And that's what the system does, trying to imitate the way the human guard would identify people.
This is great if you have the cooperation and biometrics of those you want to ID. Gathering them among the wider public can be difficult. The problem with biometrics is that it can feel really intrusive. Giving over your fingerprints and having your iris scanned, you can end up feeling like a criminal, and no one wants to feel like that. It's why a number of companies here in Tel Aviv are developing systems based on something as unique as your biometrics, the way we behave. You are unique. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you do this. And for that matter, the way you dance. To go from dance games to security systems might not be as daft as it seems. Extreme Reality's dance game tracks if your moves match the dance. Program into the system the unique way someone, a suspect say, walks, and you can find a match.
Taking the real world scenario, like you want to find a suspect after some event has happened. There was a terrorist event, you know where the suspect is. We will be able to run on multiple videos simultaneously and provide you with a number of suspects that are similar to this terrorist that you have found in one of the videos.
The way we behave in the online world is also unique. BioCatch picks up on the idiosyncratic way each of us interacts with a computer or tablet to identify us for banking transactions.
Drag the green piece until it hits the red.
I gave it a go. Unknown to me, the tablet's cursor is dragging ever so slightly. The way I compensate for that creates a unique pattern.
You a little bit to the left and you compensate it by going a little bit to the right.
That's my pattern. That's very obviously someone else's. And again, I curl in slowly, another person jags back sharply. The idea is for this to replace the array of security measures that have simply become annoying.
We talk about secret questions, there are text messages with one-time codes that are being sent, there are all sorts of physical tokens that you have to carry, and the point is that all of this is circumvented today by fraudsters. They know how to breach these sort of defenses, while the real user is just bothered by additional security all the time. So that's essentially what BioCatch is trying to solve. How do you actually increase the security? By authenticating the user behaviors, responses, cognitive choices, their subconscious interaction with the application, and at the same time reduce that unnecessary friction.
So, this could be the birth of truly smart security technology that no longer requires us to learn pesky passwords to ID ourselves, but instead learns about us.
Innovation starts at an early age in Israel. The students here at the IDC Herzliya Media Innovation Lab are developing ideas to help people with disabilities.
Left foot.
First, then
right.
When you feel stable.
They've created a game for small children with balance problems using a smartphone's accelerometer and a wobbly standy thing.
Excellent. So there's that. I've crashed it.
5, And for older people, how about a dance? This Xbox Kinect game keeps you fit and mobile by helping you to practice your moves. There's much more going on here, and one of the professors showed Jen Copestake his latest robot, and it was quite an emotional experience.
It may look like just a cheap desk lamp, but by picking up on your emotions, this robot could help you become a better communicator.
The robots were supposed to encourage people's empathy for each other, and through your empathy to the robot are supposed to make your behavior to other people better. And what if the robot would be very sensitive and sort of expressing the sensitivity of the relationship, and if people start talking in too aggressive way, it'll get scared. So the robot sort of like is in a calm situation and it's listening to the conversation. Okay,
the robot has 3 emotional states: curious, calm, and scared, and will react depending on the volume and tone of conversation.
Oh, he will get curious. He'll sort of lean forward and try to listen more.
Yeah. So we're going to try it out now. Hey!
But quickly gets scared and shakes when we're angry.
That was pretty scary, I have to say. So you already feel like bad for scaring it. I see your whole body language is like, oh no, I'm sorry. I think different people have different emotional needs, and different robots could help those people cope with situations that might be hard for them. I mean, this is just one direction.
This is an industrial complex in Tel Aviv called Bet HaTasyanim, and the ground floor is still occupied, as you're going to hear, by traditional industry. The third floor has been taken over by something a lot more high-tech. In fact, the companies here need units which offer them space to do their thinking and development, but also to do stuff that's a lot more sciencey. You never know what you might find if you peer through the windows. Gauzy makes the next generation of smart glass. Unlike the stuff that just flicks between opaque and transparent when you pass an electric current through, this glass can fade between the two. You can also have several independent panels in one pane of glass. In theory, that should allow for more graceful looking installations, whether it's a fridge you don't have to open to check the contents, or groovy privacy screens for public places. Or this enormous display already installed at the visitor centre in Shiloh. What's also unusual is the flexible panel in between the two panes can be one of several different shades of white or grey. In fact, next door, they're working on introducing a whole range of colours. And in the future, they might just be able to split the panel into individual pixels, allowing text or even graphics to be displayed. Next up, someone else who's a massive fan of Windows and Mac OS X and Linux. It's Kate Russell with Webscape.
Yes, Spencer, it's true. I've spent much of my youth gazing through Windows, mainly playing computer games like Elite and Wolfenstein 3D. Those classics didn't need impressive graphics and visual acrobatics to grab our attention. It was all about gameplay, and platform puzzler Nihilumbra has that in bucket loads. You play a character born of the void and spend the whole game battling through a hostile landscape with the empty nothingness of non-existence snapping at your heels. The artwork is simplistically stunning and the puzzles growing in difficulty as you pick up additional skills to play with. The darkly chilling script nags at you throughout to feel hopeless and lost. The demo can be played free online through your browser, with the full game available on lots of platforms in a number of different languages. The ongoing craze for self-destructing selfies has gained another ally with Blink app released for Android. The free messaging app was already popular on iPhone and lets users send text, photos, videos, sketches and even voice messages to friends that disappear once they've been viewed. Now, this genre is such a buzz right now. It's just been announced that Yahoo has snapped up Blink. So, who knows what the future holds for this app?
I really need one. But first, let me take a selfie.
It seems like everyone is doing selfies these days. The word has even been enshrined in the English language, appearing in the Oxford Dictionary. Another addictive habit is caffeine. Note the seamless segue there. If you're more of a coffee drinker than a self-obsessed snapper, this next app could be for you. Up Coffee lets you add and track your caffeine intake throughout the day, keeping you informed about how it might impact your sleep. If you have the Up band, you can link the apps together to get additional data and correlations about sleep patterns over time. Music lovers who like to impress at the pub quiz should bookmark Google's music timeline, which tracks the popularity of musical genres dating back all the way to 1950. This is 64 years of musical history, although classical music has been omitted because it's catalogued differently from other genres, using composition date rather than recording date to determine where it sits in a timeline. You can explore by genre, with artists and albums all a click away to view. And of course, you can click through to purchase them from Google's Music Store too. Code Academy has been teaching people to code with free and easy to follow online lessons since 2011. Until now, the only language available was English. But last week, the Academy started rolling out a global initiative to translate the lessons into other languages. Portuguese, French and Spanish translations are already completed, with more in the works for the months ahead.
Kate Russell's Webscape. Just before we leave Israel, I have to introduce you to the company which is reinventing the wheel. Now, if you use a wheelchair, you'll know what a bumpy and uncomfortable ride coming down steps is. And if you build a suspension system into the chair, it fights you as you're rolling along flat surfaces, which obviously isn't ideal. Well, meet Draw, who's using a chair fitted with two soft wheels. And this is what he can do. It's basically an in-wheel suspension system, but it's only used when it's needed, which means it doesn't fight you when you roll along the flat. And actually, this thing could be fitted to, well, pretty much anything that has a wheel. Now that's it from Israel. Next week, though, we'll be in the West Bank to check out the Palestinian tech scene. Can't wait for that. For more from us, check out our website, bbc.co.uk/click. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.